Now we're gonna find out about the scariest house in America and what really happened in it. Pow, it's Maxell from Cabal. What's better than an interesting horror movie? Two interesting horror movies. Yes, but no. An interesting horror movie based on a true story. And so I wondered, are these events actually real? Or what the hell is this all about? Today on the menu we have not just some unknown shit, but one of the most terrifying urban legends in America. Let's go.
On November 13, 1974, on 112 Ocean Avenue, in the town of Amityville, Long Island, New York, a terrible event occurred. The killer, in his own house, murdered his parents, as well as two sisters and two brothers. This story still interests many lovers of the paranormal, as he committed the murders not of his own free will.
Voices told him to do it.
Something otherworldly in his house forced him to do so. It seems that perhaps the demons or something that drove him to slaughter his family were not even in his head, but in the house. But a real round of horrors was awaiting a new family that moved into this tragic mansion.
Let's start unraveling the events right from the start. This terrible story is indeed entirely real, and nobody survived in it, except for the one who pulled the trigger. Ronald DeFeo Jr., the eldest son. At 3:15 in the morning, he finished watching TV, grabbed a shotgun and went hunting for his own family. Then later this day he ran into the local bar and screamed that Mafia killed all his relatives. Mafia.
What have I ever done to make you treat me so disrespectfully?
But at the home inspection, the police discovered plenty of evidence that Ronald himself shot his entire family with a hefty rifle, much larger than this. By the way, in the end he got 6 life sentences and died in 2021 in a New York prison. Did anyone ever wonder, why is one given multiple life sentences? Isn't one enough? You can appeal one life sentence and get out of prison, but multiple life sentences? Unlikely, bro. Here comes the most interesting thing. After a while, he added that actually he was innocent. It was simply voices in his head of that house that commanded him to kill his entire family. Or they would have killed him, and he couldn't control himself.
Sorry. The voices.
After that, the house was filled with the bottom-of-the-barrel atmosphere. Even the police noticed that they didn't like it there at all, and there seemed to be an excessive amount of houseflies buzzing around. Mystique, the beginning. And that's where the story would have ended, if not for one but. The story behind the story begins in 1975, just 2 weeks after Ronald's sentencing. The house is on sale and the Lutz family moves in at turbo speed. Well, actually, the Hollywood movie The Amityville Horror is about this family. Just think of it, 5-bedroom and 4-bathroom mansion with a swimming pool and a bathhouse for only $80,000. So tempting. Or is something off here? How tempting. Over here you can see a table made of redwood. Next to it there is a chandelier in the Venetian style, which is very important. And here you will most likely die. Take a look around for now. Darling, I don't want to die. Shut up. Did you hear how much the house cost? $80,000. That's just an absolute steal. We'll probably take it. As soon as this new family moved into the house, a new round of horrors began. According to them, in just 15 minutes the dog tried to hang itself on its own collar. The builders forgot to build a dog house. Some sinister forces ripped open a 250-pound door, leaving it hanging from one hinge, threw open windows, slid drawers back and forth, wrenched a banister from its fastenings. A demonic face with glowing red eyes peered into their house at night through a second-story window, leaving cloven-hoofed footprints in the snow outside. Green slime oozed from a ceiling. The daughter was talking to an invisible creature, though they didn't have a daughter. Daughter from nowhere. Mystique. I'm kidding, they had one. They found some weird hidden red room in the basement. The wife was flying around the house, but of course, all of these are just small things. Most importantly, the main thing, he woke up nightly precisely at the time of the same murder, at 3:15. All of this is detailed in the book The Amityville Horror, a true story. Oh, and a voice in a masculine tone. Get out.
Get out.
What on earth was that?
Probably just your house settling.
But they decided to stay. Nothing suspicious or surprising.
Darling, our daughter has been talking to imaginary friends for 2 days in a row already.
At least she has some friends.
And there are so many houseflies. If some gonna die,
You're imagining things. By the way, wake me up at 3:15. Let's talk about the book. It turned out to be a runaway bestseller. Sold more than 3 million copies. Turned into major motion pictures that grossed more than $200 million. Everywhere it says it's based on a true story, under a section True Crime. Published in 1977, but even to this day it has an exceptionally good rating on Amazon. Right from the start on page 26, where I said that as soon as the losses moved in, the children were possessed by monsters. They wouldn't listen at all, misbehaved and threatened to run away from that house. Yet already on page 86 in the same book we read that it turns out the children always had such a character, and when they lived at Deer Park, they would already run away from home, but returned. How on earth does that work, author?
Yeah, sorry, I was drunk. I shouldn't have told you that stuff.
And on page 29, there is an interesting statement. Kathy's bathroom door was at the far end of her bedroom, which is absolutely contradictory to the floor plan. Listen, only by opening a weather report archive one can see that this book is based on anything but a true story. On page 64, the weather on December 27th is described as bright as clean, though in reality it was raining. And remember the demonic creature with red eyes with the cloven hoofed footprints found in the snow. The only problem in this story is during these 28 days that the Lutz family lived in the house, starting from December 18, on Long Island, there wasn't a single snowfall. Also, in the book, on their last day in the Amityville house, there was an extreme storm. Yet the New York Times for January 14 and 15 gives a different picture of the weather. No precipitation at all. Though based on the true story, the storm greatly influenced the behavior of the Lutz family. And the fact that he woke up every night at 3:15 at the time of the murder, in short, that's freaking bullshit as well. I found in the archives official reports. He woke up at the time of anything but the murder, because the time of the deaths was never determined by the medical examiner. Ronald did later say that it all went down at 1 in the morning. So yeah, this book based on the truest story would be more appropriately indexed under fiction, fantasy, and horror. Oh, and even a priest came and said,
Fuck this.
Fuck. Did you see this?
This priest played a significant role, as the chief witness swearing that the house was cursed to hell. He got painful blisters on his hand being called upon to bless it, and he'd heard the male voice commanding get out. As a result, this made it into the press and escalated through the roof. In the book, his name is changed to Father Mancuso, but I easily found him. His real name is Father Pecoraro, and he's bada bim boom boy, genius, billionaire, philanthropist, and playboy. In parentheses, a charlatan Catholic priest who's been banned from performing his religious duties by the Diocese of Rockville Center, but we'll talk about him once again later. So yeah, evil spirits evicted them from the house after 28 days, and they never returned there, various sources tell us. They did return the very next day. They rushed to all the newspapers to tell that this house is completely freaked out, and even were given tours of it. Invited the most famous demonologists in the world, Ed and Lorraine Warren, together with other psychics, and New York Television's Channel 5 to conduct an investigation. What's interesting is that these psychics walk around the house and be like, Demons are possessing us! And the cameramen are just looking around like, what's going on? I don't feel anything. And they be like, demons are possessing us. But wait, it's not demons. It's actually the spirit of Native American chief thirsting revenge. There used to be a Native American cemetery here. And also, the previous owner of the house was an devout satanic worshipper who fled Salem. Urgently, call the police! I can't reach! These idiots again. And in short, no one felt anything besides the psychics themselves. This is just ridiculous.
So I took the holy water and I opened it and I said to him, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And I went like that. And you could hear like water on a hot stove go tss. And then everything in the house stopped.
It's like the rush of water against my chest, holding you back so powerfully.
Again, as a reporter, I have to tell you, I did not see anything, I did not feel anything, other than the reaction of Ed, Lorraine, the other psychics, and the other people around me.
I found the chief of the police there at the time, and he was asked to comment on the matter. Do you know what he said? Since December 18, 1975, for this period of time, the police hadn't received any calls from 112 Ocean Avenue. Mystique. But the book wiggle goes on and says that since the house was cursed, the phone was malfunctioning. Double mystique. And on page 81, head of the family George Lutz describes being told by the Amityville Historical Society that the Shinnecock Indians used land on the Amityville River as an enclosure for the sick, mad, and dying. Well, that's a very credible source, considering that the Amityville Historical Society never heard from him. But to his credit, he almost got it right. There used to just live other Massapequa Indians, not Shinnecocks. And about this previous owner of the house, which we are told in movies, Satanist Ketchum.
Reverend Jeremiah Ketchum. He started a mission for Indians. Over 20 bodies were found in the lake. He slaughtered them all.
I just love movies based on a true story. A check of the Historical Society located in Huntington, a town approximately 13 miles from Amityville, revealed that there might have been several John Ketchums in the area. So John Ketchum sounds like... Ketchum! Ironically, he's the only one in this story I didn't catch. Him, or any clear proof that any John Ketchum ever resided on or near this property. The most definitive proof connected with John Ketchum's being a witch comes from the Ketchum's family's own extensive research into their genealogy. They've been able to determine there was never a witch named John Ketchum. So coming back to this squad of psychic intellectuals which is featured on television, in general they didn't capture anything meaningful besides the screams of the half-witted idiots. They took a photo of a little boy in the corridor, as if there was a little boy in his house. Well, sure does look creepy, but here's the same photo, restored in color. According to Ed and Lorraine Warren, this is a photo of a ghost of John Matthew DeFeo, who was 9 years old when he was murdered. Only I found a person who this could be, Paul Bart, with the same haircut and shirt, and he for sure was there with the Warrens. I also discovered that the glowing eyes here are the result of infrared film. And anyways, if we take a wild guess that all these emotions of the mediums are staged, why shouldn't this photo be one either, huh? It's alright. Mister, where are my 20 bucks? Buzz off. And what if I tell everyone that it's staged? Kids these days are shit. Well, they managed to make it creepy, and now the whole town was bursting at the seams that the house was cursed to hell. Everywhere it's written that no one ever lived in it. Tried of course, but couldn't last even a couple of days. I happen to have other piece of information. On an American real estate website, there are clear dates of who lived there, who lives there now. Astonishing, isn't it? Do you have an extra $1,090,000? Of course you have. Then you can buy this house. Let's take a look at it. No, really, it's a damn amazing house. They've renovated everything that could be renovated. Seriously, I would buy it. What do I have to be afraid of? After that couple of crazies left, other families would move into the house. They lived there for a long time, resold it for a variety of reasons, and no paranormal activity bothered anyone. Quite the contrary, when the next family, the Cromartys, moved in, interesting details were revealed. The hidden red room turned out to be just a closet with red walls under a stairwell. So small that our non-existent John Ketchum, even on his knees, would have trouble conducting an occult ceremony in there. Plus, recalling the extensive damage to doors and windows detailed by the Lutzes, when the next family moved in, doorknobs, locks, hinges were still in place for some reason. There were even no disturbances in the paint and varnish. And the 250-pound door that was inexplicably torn off its hinges. Here it is, a small screen door. Is this house cursed? Are you out of your mind? It goes without saying, of course not. Do some weird paranormal things happen? Murders. A lot of people like to say that it's scary in this house and some spine-chilling bloody shit happens. I live here and I haven't seen any of that. Is it safe to live in this house? In this house, it's scary and some spine-chilling bloody shit happens. I live here. And what if this whole story is a conspiracy? But whose conspiracy? People and ghosts or people and people? Let's say there is a person named William Weber. He's the lawyer for the guy who just shot his entire family. Imagine an interview where he reveals that he made up the whole story together with the Lutz family over a couple of bottles of wine. For what? Well, firstly, to try to commute the sentence for his defendant murderer, as if some force influence on human behavior exists at the Amityville house. After all, only sometime later Ronald said that he did it all only on the orders of the demons in his head of that house. And also to write a bestseller, for instance. He offered the Lutzes 24%, but they didn't like it at all because Jay Anson, the fiction writer who did write the book in the end, offered 50%. Signed a contract, wrote a book, the book was adapted into movies, received a ton of money for their participation. In a nutshell, ghosts flicker, cash gets thicker. Ain't no I'ma push it to the limit. Strong from. Well, that's actually how it went down.
What a twist!
So Weber and the Lutz didn't get along, that's why the lawyer told the truth.
There have been a lot of other things that have happened during this case where unusual deaths, but you know, it's got to be attributed to coincidence, nothing else.
It's just this web of lies, and the motivation was simple enough.
They produced a beautiful commercial scam. Their version is not a true story, but if they call it a true story, you know, how could you say that they're liars?
They filed a lawsuit against each other, demanding $4.5 million for alleged invasion of privacy, misappropriation of name for trade purposes, and negligent infliction of mental distress. The next family that moved in, the Cromartys, also filed a lawsuit against the Lutzes, and the Cromartys also filed a lawsuit against the writer Jay Anson, stating that the fraudulent haunting claims had resulted in sightseers destroying any privacy they might have had. And Ronald filed a lawsuit against everyone because he thought he was the main character. By the way, in the court, this priest was cracked down on as the main witness, and this Father Pecoraro testified under oath that he never even set foot in the house. And this super cool fiction writer, who was foaming at the mouth as he argued that the entire book was based solely on real events, ultimately confessed that as soon as the Lutzes moved out, all the paranormal activity instantly ceased.
Do I believe that they were in that house for 28 days? No, categorically, undeniably, no.
I think that they had this whole thing planned, and they were going to write a book about it and make themselves a lot of money. And, you know, they did.
And then it transpired that the Lutzes also admitted that everything in the Amityville Horror was a setup since day one. And Ronald confessed that, quote-unquote, it was a cold-blooded murder. Period. No ghosts, no demons. Eventually, by the way, the parties arrived at an undisclosed settlement. Simply put, if you delve into his biography, everything becomes clear. He despised his father, who routinely abused their family, stole money, consumed LSD and heroin. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't wipe out the entire neighborhood. And it would seem like everyone who could confessed. What else can there be? But in 2013, the case resurfaced again. This time, the oldest child of the troubled family, Daniel Lutz, who was 9 at the time of the brouhaha, has come forward to claim the essential story was true and he and his stepfather, George, had been possessed.
I was possessed by a spirit that I could not get rid of on my own.
Who on earth gonna believe this son? There are still some strange moments in his case though. The DeFeos were all discovered in the same position, lying face down in bed. And how did none of them wake up? When I turn my Xbox on in the night, the whole street instantly wakes up. Plus, no traces of struggle have been found. So yeah, there are several pieces of evidence that do not fit into the official theory whatsoever. In the Suffolk County police files, there is a photo of bloody shoes. Only where could there be blood from if each person was shot in their own bed? And what bothers me is that the baseboards behind the shoes do not match the baseboards in the bedrooms, which supports the fact that the DeFeos were not asleep at the time of their murders. An independent investigator, Rico Suna, who's almost devoted his entire life to the Amityville Horror, met with the police, with the relatives, with Ronald himself. After careful inquiry, came to the conclusion official investigation had reached a dead end. Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. couldn't have murdered his entire family alone. He and his sister got high on drugs in the basement, and here the official opinion and that of investigators diverge. Rico Suna believes there was more than one gun and killer involved. They together went on a killing spree, but it was intended that out of hatred they would only kill their parents. A clue that the DeFeos were awake at the time of the murders rests in the final position of Mark DeFeo's body. Because Mark had suffered a debilitating injury from football, he was forced to sleep on his back. The big sister ordered the boy to lie face down and shot him. Butch, upon his return and enraged at the senseless murder, confronted Dawn DeFeo in her third-floor bedroom. After briefly wrestling for the gun, Butch got the upper hand and slammed Dawn against the bed, knocking her out. As she lay unconscious on her bed, he placed the muzzle of the rifle to her head and fired. The murderous spree had finally ended. At least that's Ronald's confession, although he said there was also his friend with them, whose name he never said. Yet to another well-respected researcher, Joe Nickel, Rico Suna appears to become another of his victims, and that Butch DeFeo once again decided to blame the entire crime on his sister. And here's what puts the investigation at a standstill. The post-mortem examination discovered that there were backfire particles on a nightgown worn by Dawn DeFeo on the night in question. But whether he was alone or there were 2 or 3 of them, we will never know. But this is already criminology. There isn't even a hint of mystique here. This is yet another proof that from an ordinary story one can make up a world-scale paranormality. What I'm getting at is, this is far from the last movie about Amityville. I want to believe that after my unreal debunking it'll be at least a bit scary, but believing in this is hard. Oh no, my left hand isn't listening to me. Looks like we're gonna smash that like button. I will write a book about it. Subscribe to the House of the Voice in Your Head commanded. Technically, if you're watching with headphones on, the voice is really in your head. Like a house, like a ghost. Like a house, like a ghost.